Do HR personnel have friends at the office? Yes, the best actually. Introducing the corporate portal for HR managers and business administrators, and HR's best friend. It helps to add and remove employees from HMO plans, subscribe to and track coverage packages, generate custom reports, and so much more. We just changed the game of health management in corporate organizations with zero paperwork. Book yourself a call and presentation by visiting www.leadway.com/get health plan today.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone that took out their time to be with us today. We are really grateful. We appreciate you coming to this session. Thank you for having us here. We'll just wait a little bit to allow others join, maybe a few seconds. All right. I'm sure everyone is joining. Once again, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking out of your time. Good afternoon, Miss Olajide Ajiro Sharo. Thank you for coming. Good afternoon to everyone. This is a session powered by Leadway. We are happy to have you here. My name is Dr. Inkasola Taiwo. I will be your host for this session, and it promises to be an insightful and enlightening session. I'm sure everybody's going to have a good time today. Good afternoon once again to everybody that is here. I would like to introduce our guests that are here right now so that we can move on and start the session. Right, so without further ado, our speaker for today is Dr. Adedotu Ajelabi. Yes, she is a family physician and an occupational health expert. And you can see that she has the wealth of knowledge and the grace to help us and put us through this wonderful session. She's well equipped. Good afternoon, Miss Special Iriogbe. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. I would also like to introduce Mr. Fafi. He's our in-house expert, fitness expert, that is going to be taking us through a short exercise session, a stretching session during this program to help us deal with. I'll show us how to use exercise to deal with stress. Good afternoon to everyone once again that is coming in. Thank you for taking out of your time to be with us today. Okay, let's start the program. Uh, Dr. Adidotu, would you like to say hello to our audience here just for a few moments, please?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Adedotu Ajelabi, family physician and occupational health expert. So I'll be glad to speak with you all today, and I hope it's going to be interesting. Looking forward to having a great interaction. Please send in your questions if necessary.
Thank you very much, Ma. Fafi, can we have you say hi to the audience?
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Fafi, fitness experts, aerobics instructor. It's nice having everyone here today.
Thank you very much, Fafi. So, without further ado, let's move straight to the meat of the matter while we are here. Our topic for today is the prevalence of drug abuse among 9 to 5 hours. I'm sure when you first heard of this topic, the first thing that came to your mind was probably, oh, maybe the use of cocaine or the use of hard drugs and stuffs like that. Although that's very important, and that is actually you can't talk about drug abuse without mentioning those things. But we also like to mention that apart from those hard drugs, there are other medications that can actually be abused in the office setting. So, drugs as simple as even paracetamol can be abused. Imagine an office worker that sits down for most of the time in the office and develops back pain, right? Eventually, you see this person purchasing a lot of paracetamol and such over the counter medications like that. So, that is also in some way some form of drug abuse. So, our speaker today will be touching on what drug abuse is in itself and not just about the hard drugs that are popular in the environment today, but also about the common over-the-counter drugs that you wouldn't think can be an addiction. So let's start the session so that we don't waste anybody's time. We appreciate everyone for taking our time to be here. So Dr. Ajelabi, are you with me, ma?
Yes, I am.
Yes, good afternoon, ma. Once
Good
again, thank you
afternoon
for
once
taking
again.
your time to be here. So that we can start and so that we can have this session interactive and engaging, I would like to ask what exactly is drug abuse and how do you know if you are guilty of it? Can you hear me, ma?
All right, thank you very much. So, drug abuse itself can simply be put as using of medication. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma.
Should I go ahead?
Please go ahead, ma.
Hello? Uh oh. Okay, so should I go ahead? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. I was trying to say that if you want to put drug abuse in simple terms, it will mean using medications for the wrong reasons or using a particular medication meant for something was initially prescribed or maybe not prescribed, and what you're trying to get from it is not what it was originally designed for. Let's put it that way. So
Hello, Dr. Didotu. I apologize for that break in transmission. I think Dr. Ajelabi is having some um, internet connectivity issues, but she'll be with us as soon as possible. We're working on that back end. So I think what she was trying to say is drug abuse is basically using a medication for something that is not meant for. So if imagine, for instance, in the office, I'm sure most of us or most office workers have sleeping issues, right? Like you work 9 to 5, and then you can't sleep properly because you close late, right? And so you find a lot of office workers abusing some sleep medications in that instance just to get themselves to sleep. And then when it becomes overuse, you can consider that some form of drug abuse. Okay, we have Dr. Ajelabi back into the studio now. Ma, can you hear me? Hello, ma. Hello, Dr. Ajelabi. Yeah, I think we've lost her again. We're very sorry about that. And the rain, I'm sure the rain is not helping matters with these network issues today, but we'll get it sorted out as soon as possible. Right. So, like I was saying earlier, um, in that instance where we find people in the office using a lot of sleep medications constantly and over time, and they get addicted to it, in that situation we can say, oh, that's some form of drug abuse because they're using it more than they should. So I would like to ask the audience to give me some examples of, common drugs in your office, even if it's over the counter medications, common medications in your office that you think are being overused, even if it's as simple as, paracetamol, like the example I gave earlier of, a simple office worker developing back pain, after sitting down for hours, and he keeps on buying paracetamol and using it over and over again just to help that back pain. And really, the problem is really the posture or the seat. So I'm getting some answers. Somebody is saying diclofenac. Yes, diclofenac is one of the commonest medications that we find in many of our staff members overusing. Paracetamol, yes, we have paracetamol too as one of those medications. Some people can use paracetamol for everything possible. Any other medications that are common? I would like to have some more examples. Somebody just said my colleague's afternoon food is Panadol. You see, at that particular point where it has become a constant, then you know that it is becoming abuse. So it's not just a matter of taking the cocaine or the hard drugs. It's also about um, using simple medications like Panadol. I still like to get some more examples. Malaria drugs, yes, malaria drugs. Once you feel small headache or you feel small body pain like this, everybody go and buy anti-malaria and keep on using anti-malaria. I think we have Dr. Ajalabi back into the studio.
I'm
Can
so
you hear
sorry
me,
for
man?
issues. Yes, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Is
we
this better?
can.
Okay, great. I had to change my phone.
Thank you very much, ma. All right, so
Okay.
I'll leave the floor back to Dr. Ajalabi. So our question initially was, what exactly is drug abuse, and how do you know if you are actually abusing drugs, not just the hard drugs, but even the over-the-counter medications that we buy?
Yes, I was saying that abuse of drugs, especially prescription drugs, is use of drug for the wrong reasons. That's it put basically, right? Sometimes it's the intent that determines sometimes whether it's abuse or misuse, because there's actually a difference between the two. And for this drug abuse, it's easy to point to the psychoactive substances like cannabis, cocaine, and cocaine, which you mentioned already. But the truth is, even the use of our normal prescription medication, those drugs have been prescribed by the doctor, using it in the wrong, um, or using it wrongly at the wrong time, or using it for maybe a side effect that is pleasant to you, makes it drug abuse. That's basically what drug abuse is.
All right, thank you very much, ma. So, I mean, I'm sure we all heard what she said. I think the key points from what she's saying is using the drugs for the wrong intent, right? Not just use. It's not just buying medications from the pharmacy that makes it an abuse, but using it for the wrong intent, using it at the wrong time, using it even when it hasn't been prescribed. So, ma, how common do you think drug abuse is in the workplace, especially for those that work 9 to 5, the corporate office? How common do you think, drug abuse or self-medication is in the office?
You sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you go over it again?
Yes, so I said, how common do you think drug abuse is in the office, in the workplace? Because that's our focus today. How
Yes.
common do you think it is? It?
So it's quite common. Research has not streamlined it to just people in the workplace, but if we're going to estimate the age of people in the workplace to be about 18 to 60, thereabouts, and there's a particular study that was done, that talked about people between the ages of 15 and 64, and saying about 40% of them had a problem with drug abuse. So that was for that study, and then there was another study done in the US where they mentioned the fact that out of 1 out of 7 workers actually have drug abuse problems that would need, or 1 out of 7 workers have drug abuse problems, and 1 out of those 5 workers have the drug abuse problems, and they even use those substances at work. But for the prescription medications only, there was no particular study saying that okay, maybe this percentage of workers, abuse prescription drugs. However, there was the study that talked about the fact that more women, abused prescription drugs at workplace compared to men. And I think we can just relate to that because more women present at the hospitals. So when you have prescription medications, most of the people that will get prescription medications are the women. So most likely they are the ones, to abuse these medications.
Yeah, I think one of the common examples would probably be for maybe like menstrual cramps. A lot of
Yes.
women have to take medications for menstrual cramps, and it eventually becomes overused to some certain
Mhm.
extent, and that's why you might have more women using it, even in the office, because at some point you don't want to give an excuse that you're on your period, and so you can't work. So you find a lot of women having stashes of diclofenac and all those common medications, in the office setting. But at the same time, as much as we are putting a lot of our focus on the prescription drugs, I would like you to touch a little bit on even on the hard substances and even alcohol itself as a drug in itself, even in the office setting. How common do you think this is? Do you think it might not be open because people hide these things, but do you think it's common that people use this cocaine and all those alcohol even in the office setting?
Yes, that was what I mentioned with that study that said 1 in 7 people that work have a drug problem, have issues. And then they said 1 out of 5 of those 7, like 1 out of 7, then 1 out of 5 of that particular group actually do use these substances. And alcohol is like the major one, on the list for people that work, people at work. A lot of people tend to abuse alcohol before in hours. And it's not so far fetched because if you look at what exactly drug abuse does, eventually it leads to addiction. And for you to know that there's an addiction, there are some things that would happen. So, for instance, the person can't help but take these substances maybe very early in the morning before they start their day. They can take these substances maybe uncontrollably. They can't even control. They can't even tell themselves, you know what, this is not the right place to do it. They just go ahead, and take these substances. And apart from that, it starts to tell on your health. Some people eventually come down with severe or chronic illnesses, but even though they know that is these medications or these drugs, these psychoactive substances that are causing their chronic illnesses, they cannot stop. They can't still get over it. Then another pointer is when people start getting angry at others telling them to stop using it. Now that's another pointer to show that addiction is setting in. So the use in the workplace is it happens. We are hoping, that it doesn't happen as often, but that's what statistics say. That 1 out of 5 of those 1 out of 7 actually do abuse substances at the workplace. So yes, it's quite common. I would say if we say relatively.
So now, with that premise of how common it is, both for the substance abuse and even for the prescription drugs, what do you think is the commonest? What do you think are the commonest causes of why office workers, especially, would want to, use these medications? What are the common things that you think an office worker would experience that would tilt the person to either overusing even just the prescription medications like paracetamol for headaches and stuff like that?
Yeah, so first, if we're going to use the paracetamol example, the first thing would then be maybe because they are having failing health. So we well, I live in Lagos, a lot of us live in Lagos, and the stress of commuting, you move from your house to your workplace, you stay in long hours of traffic, you don't exactly get enough time to sleep or to, refresh yourself before coming back to work. That eventually leads to failing health. And when the health of an individual starts to fail, then they start taking medication. And they also want to save face at work. Imagine you coming to work today saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, I came late because I was not feeling fine," and then tomorrow you come in and say the same thing. You don't want to keep doing
Exactly.
that over. So a lot of people tend to fall back to those mistakes, use them just to make up for whatever they that is stress. So if we're going to pick out stress, it's just an imbalance between demand and supply. What exactly is work demanding? What are you able to supply to meet stress level? So if there is a lot of stress, if this person cannot handle the demand job, or if they're going through conflict, they have conflict with their co-workers, they have conflict with their superiors at work, these things would naturally turn people to using substances. Not maybe not necessarily the prescription medication system, but it would turn people to go to alcohol, to go to something that will probably just relax them and make them forget about the stresses that they go through. And some people might just be from association. Maybe you have people that do it, and one day you tried it, then the other day you tried it. Before you know it, you yourself are addicted to all that stuff. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Ma. So, I mean, just to pull out one of the major points that she mentioned, so is the stress, one of the major causes of, office workers falling into the trap of drug abuse is mostly stress. And so you find something to try calm you down. So, I mean, our HRs and bosses and heads on this call, if you notice that a particular member of your office is too stressed, you might be surprised how that person is coping with that stress and is using all these substances to cope with that stress. So it's necessary for us to be try and help each other balance our work, so that we don't fall so bad into stress that we have to depend on other things. And also she also mentioned, like, for the commuting, the pains, especially one thing I have noticed myself is the poor ergonomics we have in the office, especially with the chairs that people sit down, the constant slouching forward. So you have this constant back pain, constant neck pain with among office workers, and that's something that can easily be sorted out if every office makes sure that the chairs are ergonomically okay. There's the movement around, so that reduces the risk of of your staff workers buying prescription drugs, buying paracetamol, diclofenac pain reliefs over and over again. And like speaker said earlier in the presentation, once it is being used more than it should be, once the intent has changed, it has become drug abuse. So, Ma, what do you think are the long and short term effects of drug abuse? What do you think is the short term effect, and what do you think would eventually be the long term effects of drug abuse on nine
Yeah.
to fivers?
Okay. So the short term, well, okay. Definitely, we know that the short term effects will then lead. Okay. So for the short term effects, we can then split it into the effect on the employee and the effect on the employer. Okay. So one of the things that we have is that employee, or that 9 to 5 that we are talking about today, will not be able to concentrate well at work. The person might have concentration, start making mistakes. The person can start feeling dizzy at work instead of being active and strong enough and focused enough, to carry through. The person is now falling back, not able to meet up with their demands. They're not able to meet up with targets and all of that. So those those are like short term um, problems, that it can cause for the person involved. Now, for the employer, of course, it becomes difficult because when your employee is not able to meet up with the targets, you start losing money. The employer starts to lose money. Apart from that, you start having to resolve issues at work. You start having to so you start having to resolve issues between colleagues. You start having to resolve issues between the worker and the supervisor. Um, Accidents can occur. You have to bring in more money to fix up whatever it is that built. And then, silly mistakes cost you a lot of money. That's happening. So these short-term effects can really affect both the employer and the employee. However, for the long-term effects, after all of this use of the substance itself would lead to the person becoming addicted to that. So what this just means, um, the person can't stop using it. So that's addiction. Can't control himself or she can't control herself. Goes on using it. And then we talk about tolerance, where the person has to increase how much of it that they use. So one of the drugs that we probably did not mention, or maybe it was when my network was disturbing, was is Valium. You know, we talk about use of sleeping pills. So some of those medications, you know, by the time you use them over a period of time, you might not even be getting what you would naturally get from it if you were just a starter, or if you just use it once in a while or as prescribed. You might have to increase the dosage, and that is what we call tolerance. The person has to take a lot more, you know, to feel the same satisfaction. So all of that, and then we now talk about chronic illnesses that come from it. Um, Long use of alcohol, of course, the person that has cardiomyopathy, things going on with the heart, hepatitis, that's liver disease, and also many things. You understand? So all those chronic diseases actually result from the use, and eventually, when substance is being used by a person, it starts to affect their family life, it starts to affect their jobs, and eventually it might just really have, you know, an effect on the person's life, and then the person can start having mental illnesses. So depression sets in, anxiety sets in, and you know, it's just a whole cascade. It just goes worse, and you know, it just gets from bad to worse.
All right, so I think the key points from what she just said, I'm trying to mention the key points in case of network issues. The key points of what she just said is tolerance. Like sometimes you use these medications and you get used to it, and you have to now increase the dosing. So the problem there is not you buying that paracetamol today. The problem is buying it every day, and then your body gets used to it. And then at some point, you need to increase the dosage. At that point, it becomes abuse. Right. So she has said a lot of things as short and long term effects. So I would like for people to drop in the comment section right now, just to make this session a little bit interactive. What are the short and the long term effects that you heard her say from what she just said? Just maybe one or two comments from the audience. What are some of the short and the long term effects of drug abuse on the work in the workplace? Just one or two, please.
Yeah, while we're at that, I think I saw someone comment about caffeine sometime, well, before this program, and talking about the fact that a lot of people are on that table. You know, the way we say
Yes,
that
and coffee.
table. Yes. So a lot of people take coffee, and coffee really is a psychoactive substance because it's a stimulant.
Right.
So that's something that workers, especially when you have access in the office, the work where you have your tea breaks, and they actually do have tea available or coffee available. So all caffeine use also is a big deal. It's something that you should be careful about, because the long term effect of caffeine actually gets to a point where you get tolerant to taking over. By the time you notice that you're taking about 4 cups, you're taking 5 cups of coffee in a day, you really get worried, and to try to work on stopping.
Yeah, so I can already see some comments saying some of the effects that you had mentioned earlier. I just did that to make sure that everybody is following in the conversation and we can actually hear the presenter. What apart from like you said, these medications, these drugs, whatsoever they may be, they are a way of coping with the stress in the office. All right. So, what do you think are the alternative ways that people can cope with stress? Because stress in the office cannot be uh, avoided. You're going to be
Right.
stressed. Going to be a lot of workload. So, what other way do you think workers like us can help with the stress, basically?
Yeah, so there are some modifications, what we call lifestyle modifications that you can take. There are stress management plans and classes that you can take. But if I was going to summarize those, be first of all, someone that is going through stress, you have to identify what exactly is stressing. if you can. So look through your daily schedule. What exactly is stressing you? Is it the movement from your house to your workplace? What exactly is it? Then look at the possibility of removing or eliminating it. So you say, okay, is there something I can do to stop it? Is there somebody, for instance, that is particularly working with me that is stressing me? Is there a particular location that I have to go? Can I, instead of going there physically, can I change it to like virtual? If I can't change it to virtual, can I change my department? Just you have that luxury to do that. Then apart from identifying and eliminating that stressor, you can then add some, changes to make sure that what you're eating, is good food. So some people are of the habit of going to binge eat. So they go to maybe an eatery or they go somewhere, buy all sorts of things to eat when they don't feel so good or when they feel stressed. It's like their form of stress relief. But instead of doing that, if we daily choose to eat the right things, eat a lot of vegetables, take a lot of fruits, drink a lot of water, those things would actually help with your health, your general well-being as it were. Then apart from feeding and eliminating the stress was the first thing I talked about eating, restful sleep. So sleep is very important to eliminate stress. You have to make sure that you're getting your hours of sleep. For adults, it's about 7 hours. Yes, if you stay in Lagos, that might be difficult. But maybe sometime during the day, maybe if you have the luxury of getting breaks, you can take some naps, in between your work, you your work as depending on how flexible your work is. But try to make sure that you're sleeping well. Don't keep late nights when you have the opportunity to sleep well because that can reduce your stress. Other things would be getting a therapist, talking to a therapist, and then therapists are getting more popular. Back in the day, I don't think we had a lot of people coming out to say that they're therapists, but now we have quite a number of them, and speaking to them would help. Now, at the other things you can do, well, exercise, which Fafi is going to help us through. So, exercise has a way of bringing out some of these hormones in your body, some feel good hormones, like the endorphins and all that. So they bring all of that out and help to improve your mood. So even for those that are depressed, one of the things that they are encouraged to do is to join a gym, start some kind of exercise plan because it does help, the person to feel better. Also, relating with others. So, try your best when you're going through stress. Don't keep it to yourself. Look for trusted people. Look for superiors to talk to. People that have been through what you're currently going through. At that workplace. Speak to them. Ask them how they coped with their work stress when they were going through theirs, and ask them if there's anything they suggest. Try to learn from others. Try to relate with others, and all of these things would definitely help to reduce your stress. Yeah.
Okay, now that we've mentioned exercise as one of the ways to deal with stress in the office, I would like to call on Mr. Fafi, our our fitness expert in house, to just uh, show us, a few things, a few exercises, tell us the benefit. Like she has already mentioned that exercise is one of the things that you can use to deal with stress, and so it's
Yeah.
going to quickly show us, a few stretches that we can do in the office, when you're feeling that pressure and you just feel like you need to just take a break off the work you're doing. So, what are the few things, what are the few movements that you think that somebody that is sitting in the office can, just use to relieve that stress? So, the floor is yours now, Mr. Fafi.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Info. Okay, so my number one advice to everyone, if you're feeling stressed, you're tired, and then the first thing you have to do is your water. Always have your water around you. The number one rule in the gym, you always have to get a bottle of water around you, and then try to stretch whenever you are working. So for those of us that always use laptops or always writing, so it's always advisable to work on your fingers. Can you do this with me? It's always advisable to work on your fingers first and then your shoulders. So stretches for your shoulders, you could do things like, okay, hope everyone can see me. Can you all see me? Okay, so this
Yes, we
is
can see you.
stretching out your hands, one hand on the other elbow, then bring it to the side. So this helps your shoulders, it helps you do it, you bring it in, you bring it back forward, do it same thing to the other arm. So this helps the arm. Do you get? And try to roll the shoulders. It helps relieve stress, trust me, it helps. Even right now, I'm actually even feeling better somehow. So just keep rolling the shoulders. Good. Yes, that's it. So you just keep rolling the shoulder. It helps. It helps. It helps. So if you know you don't want to stand up, you don't want your colleagues to see you exercising, you could just take a walk. Take a walk outside your office. Use the stairs instead of using the elevator. And if you know that you don't care about whatever your colleagues would say to you, you could stand up around your desk and just do this for your legs. Sorry, I hope everyone can see me. Okay, so you raise the legs up, you raise it up, you raise it up. So you can even stylishly do it without anyone noticing you're walking out. So you raise it up. So this helps the legs, it helps the blood flow around the legs. And you could also, if you could also see me, stretch this leg straight and try to raise the legs up so you see it. So you stretch the legs straight, hold on, sorry. Okay, better. So you down, straight down, good, down, good, down. So you say this is very, 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 very good for the legs. You know you don't want to take the stairs, you don't want to walk. You could do this and you could jump. You don't have to jump high, or you could just on your toes, just bounce, just bounce, just bounce. And trust me, by the time you do all these exercises, I'm 100% sure you would feel better and you'll be able to get back to work without having any issues. And always remember to eat healthy, always remember to drink your water. It helps the body, it relieves us from a lot.
Thank you,
Thank
Fafi. Thank you for that.
you. Yes, yes.
For that short demonstration. So, like he said, it's something very simple. You don't have to,
Very
do
simple.
something so crazy. The point of the exercise is to help you relieve some stress because physical activity does help you. It's proven scientifically that it does help you relieve some stress. So those are some movements that you can do even while you're at your desk to help you, regain that concentration. I mean, at this point, I would like to add how Leadway, as a health maintenance organization, can assist. We have this program called the Employee Assistance Program, where you have access to a wealth of doctors and physicians and even psychiatrists that can talk to you, especially if you're already addicted to some of these substances. So we offer the employee assistance programs to our enrollees. We also offer the service of telemedicine, where you can actually speak to a doctor like myself, to get some of these drugs prescribed. Right. So sometimes when you get these drugs prescribed, it reduces the risk of you having to go to the counter by yourself and overbuying or buying drugs that you don't even need for that particular ailment. Like somebody mentioned earlier in the session, that people just buy anti-malaria just because I'm feeling tired today and it's just malaria. So in talking to a doctor and knowing that okay, it might not actually be malaria, can reduce the rate at which you consume anti-malarials. And like our speaker said, by the time you are overusing some certain medications, your body starts to tolerate these medications and then they stop working. So you wonder, I'm using one anti-malaria today, it's no longer working. I use it 3 times, it's not working, probably because your body has gotten used to that medication because of overuse, right? And that eventually in the long run will reduce your productivity because you are still sick, the problem is not solved. All right, so at this junction, I would like for some of the people in the audience to share briefly some of their experiences they've had with drug abuse. I can see someone mentioning the use of caffeine. Somebody also mentioned the use of loratadine. Once you have any cough or catarrh right now, you see people using loratadine. So I would like us to mention some of our experiences in the office, personal experience, maybe one or two, pick up one or two of them. One comment says, I realized that it was a problem when I could not go a day without paracetamol. I would have headaches literally every day till I used it. So that's someone's experience on the overuse of paracetamol. Thank you for sharing, Miss Bukola. Thank you so much. Because of our time, I would also like to, at this junction, we would like to answer a few questions. Dr. Ajala, are you still with me, ma? Hello, doctor.
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. So I would just like to pick out some questions from the comment section that we can answer.
Okay.
Um, Someone said, is there a medical benefit of taking decaffeinated coffee rather than the regular coffee? Is there a medical benefit of taking decaffeinated coffee rather than the regular coffee?
Okay, so it's depending why exactly are you taking really decaf? Maybe it's not a bad idea. But if you're taking it just because you can, then maybe you should switch to things that are less tainted. So there are some teas that actually do have just inside each cup. So that would help to reduce how much of caffeine that you're consuming. But it's not like there's a medical benefit for coffee apart from the fact that you just want to get a little bit of kick, for the day. You're feeling stressed, you're feeling tired, you just want to get more alert. That's like the major thing. But if there's any other reason why you're taking coffee, then maybe we can talk about that. Or because there are really some clinical reasons why they'll tell you to take coffee. There's some kind of headaches you can have, that the doctor would recommend that you take coffee for. Apart from that, then why exactly are you taking this coffee? That would influence how you can work on, taking it out of your diet or not.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma, for that. Another question says, is there anything wrong with taking energy drinks often? I've actually noticed this myself. A lot of office workers consume a lot of energy drinks in the office because they feel like that will give them the ginger. And so I think it's very nice that we have a question like that so that we can talk about the effects of energy drinks even while you are working. So what do you think is wrong, or is there anything really wrong with taking energy drinks often, especially for office workers?
I'm not a fan of energy drinks because of their sodium content. And if we have all heard about hypertension, right? So sodium is something that you don't want in your diet if you don't want so much of sodium in your diet if you're trying to avoid being hypertensive. If you have a family history of hypertension, if your work predisposes you to so much stress that you know that maybe after a while, if you keep at it and then you're doing the wrong things, taking a lot of oils, taking a lot of salt, then energy drinks will make it even worse because their sodium content is actually very high compared to what your daily requirement or daily recommendation that you already get. So for me, energy drinks are a no-no. If you have to take them, maybe once in a while, but it's not something you should take on a daily basis because it will contain things that would at the end of the day even cause you more harm than good in the long.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'm sure everybody has heard that. Another question says, can the intake of multivitamin supplements without a doctor's prescription be tagged as drug abuse? Yeah, I was
Okay,
expecting that question.
if we're going to go by the definition I gave earlier, the explanation I gave earlier, if your intent for the taking of these multivitamins is as a supplement, okay, so maybe we should go back to the reasons why we would naturally ask you to take multivitamins. A lot of people don't feed well, maybe because of time, maybe because of access. We stay in the urban areas, we don't have access to very fresh food. So all those vitamins, all those micronutrients that we should naturally get from foods, we might not be getting them as we ought. So multivitamins then come into play. And then you can encourage people to take multivitamins to supplement their food. And these multivitamins should not be like numerous. You should take maybe one that has a number of vitamins. That's okay. You have to take all take all of them together. So if you're taking multivitamins, maybe one of the every supplement your food intake. That means your intent is for supplement. That's fine. But if by chance you're taking these multivitamins just because you feel like popping a tablet, now that's drug abuse. I hope I've been able to put perspective to it. So your intent and then your reason for taking it might majorly be the reason why it's abused or not.
Thank you
Did
very
you
much
get
for
that?
that. So yes, I think we got that. So I hope that answers that question. So it really is the intent behind why you are taking that medication. I'm sure she has reiterated that over and over again. It's not just there's nothing wrong with having an ache today and buying paracetamol for it, right? The problem is when you do it over and over again. But someone mentioned a question that I would like to read. She said, if you have headaches due to stress from work and you take paracetamol or Panadol for it whenever it comes up, would that also be tagged as drug abuse? The key point in that question will be whenever it comes up. I think that's what she's trying to focus on. So, Dr.
Can you hear
Adela,
me?
what do you think about that? We can hear you, ma.
Okay. Okay, great. So whenever it comes up, why are you having frequent headaches? I think that would be the first thing, and that's why you might actually need to see a physician for that. So whenever it comes up, can be like once in a week, can be once in a month, and can be every day or twice a day. If you understand what I'm trying to say. So whatever it is that will make you take paracetamol like every single day, or maybe most times in a week, should make you go and see your physician, and you can have a discussion, and then you have to probably work on whatever stresses can be causing these headaches. Because a lot of times we think it's just stress, but there might be a problem. There might be an underlying
Yeah,
problem,
the
that you
mind.
need to address. So yes, that's what
Right, so that answers that question. The point is, by the time you're having something occur every time and you have to be taking medications for it, then you probably need to get it checked and not just, stick to using paracetamols for it every day. Right. And so I would also like to read some other questions from the comment section. I can see some people already saying that the exercise did help. So sometimes someone also mentioned that a stress ball too, so getting a stress ball too can help. What do you think about that, doctor?
yeah, stress balls would definitely help, especially those that have to work on relax to slam.
I'm not sure we got that.
Can you?
Can you read? Can you take that again, please? Your
Oh,
network was breaking.
okay.
Yes, we can
How
hear you
about
now.
now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I was saying that stress balls would come in handy, especially for those that have to work on keyboards or keypads that they have to slam all the time. So use of stress balls will help them, exercise their fingers compared to just
All right, thank you, doctor.
yes.
So I'll be making the last call for any other questions that we have. We're about to round up this session. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for other questions, I would just like some people to mention, or some people in the comments to mention the things that doctor mentioned that are alternatives to taking these medications. Because I think the purpose of this session is to help us, stop using those medications as frequently as possible, to reduce the risk of drug abuse, and find other alternatives to this situation. So I'd like to just mention like 3 or 4 comments that so that we can be sure that someone we've learned 1 or 2 things from this session. Any comments about other alternatives apart from medications that can help you deal with stress in the workplace? Okay, so anyone? Yes, so someone said taking some stress management classes. Yes, very important. Thank you very much, Miss Elizabeth Princewell. Any other comments? We like to see comments like this so that we know that everyone has been following us, for this session. And we're not just talking to ourselves. It's not just a conversation between me and Dr. Ajelabi. All right. Okay, so without wasting too much time. So she said, taking some stress management classes, talking to someone, exercises like we had done today in the session, finding out the cause of your stress, right? Finding out the cause of the pain. If it's something that is persisting, like for instance, the backache or whatsoever it may be, and you are using paracetamol, or even the headaches, right? And it's persistent, and you keep using medications for it. At that point, you might need to see a physician in the hospital and find out the root cause of the problem, and not just stick to just using medications every day, right? So at this juncture, I think we've been able to cover most of the questions. I would like to ask Dr. Ajelabi to give us any last advice, any last word from our end, anything she would like to add to the session.
All right. Can you hear me? I hope this is,
Yes.
I pray. Okay, great. So, last words will be that we are workers, or we all work, and 9 to 5ers have a high chance, of being really stressed. So sometimes I like to say that we should take our health seriously. We should take it very seriously. We should try to get ourselves checked at least once a year if possible. We should try to make sure that our minds are in the right places. If we need counsel to make up to that, and just resort to self help, which can lead to drug abuse and lead to addiction, which cause more problems and trouble for ourselves. So please feel free to help. Ask for help. So that's
Thank you very much, Ma, for your time. Thank you for taking out. Thank you to everyone that is on this call, is on this session. Thank you for taking our time to listen to us. We hope we've been able to pick out 1 or 2 things from this session. Before we leave, I would just like to mention that this session was powered by Leadway, in collaboration with Leadway Health, which is the health maintenance organization subsidiary of Leadway, and it's a health maintenance organization that can cater for any kind of company. They can cater for the small businesses, they can cater for the large businesses. We have such a robust plan that can cater for everybody, and our scheme and our team is dedicated to making sure that the wellness of each of our clients is covered for. And that's one of the things that drove us to having this session, because we realized that we have a lot of corporate clients, and we want to help them through their stay in their office. And so one of the major things that we offer as a body is we offer telemedicine services, advanced pharmacy benefits. We also offer mental health, fitness, baby wellness. You can roam across hospitals under the Leadway Health Plan. And so, like I mentioned earlier, the employee assistance program is something that we really thrive on, because we want to make sure that every member of the company is well catered for. So if you're not already on an HMO plan, Leadway Health is one of the best choices for you. In fact, is the best choice for you, because we care about your health, and like our slogan we say, for health, for wealth, and for more. Thank you so much again to everybody that has been with us, that has listened attentively to this session. To learn more about Leeway Health Insurance, please visit. You can visit our website at www.leewayhealth.com. You can also DM us on our social media platforms on Instagram or Twitter. All right, so there's so many avenues by which you can reach us. Thank you very much once again for coming to this session. Uh, Without further ado, I would like to bring this session to a close. My name is Dr. Taiwo Nkosala, and it's been a pleasure being with everyone here today. Thank you very much. I would like to say bye to everyone now. Thank you.